And what has deepened the revulsion is that this happened at the BBC, an institution so loved and trusted it's known as Auntie. This has cast a stain on the BBC.
9 days after ITV's film, the BBC's Director General announced 2 inquiries. One into Savile's behaviour at the BBC over 4 decades. The other, whether there were any management failings in the canning of Newsnight's Savile investigation.
Despite our efforts to make clear our belief that the decision to drop the Newsnight investigation was taken properly, for sound editorial reasons, people have continued to speculate. This is damaging to the BBC and is a cloud of suspicion which cannot be allowed to continue.
It's a celebrity culture. Jimmy could have who he wanted.
The BBC bought into Savile's sexually suggestive style in a big way.
Now then, if I was a chimpanzee and I was being naughty, what would you do to me? Say I was going like this, you see. Now then, what would you do if a chimpanzee was doing that? See these young ladies here?
His new television producer had no idea that anything but playfulness might lie behind it.
Now then, watch this. Get this, Dr. Camera. Front click every trip. Now, of course, we can't have...
He'd never been told about the earlier radio inquiry.
I should have been told, I think.
Some quite serious allegations that there was a paedophile ring operating. So these are quite serious allegations.
A paedophile ring operating where? At the BBC?
Yes.
Involving other members of staff?
Yes.
When Jimmy Savile died, these papers that now say they have been conducting their own investigations, they didn't run anything either. They also ran their own tributes to Jimmy Savile. I'm not trying to excuse the BBC not following this story up, but I do think the whole of the British media probably fell down on the job here.
But no one seems to have considered that the long-term abuse by a BBC personality, sometimes on BBC premises, was arguably the biggest institutional failure of them all.
The producer emailed his editor, warning him of the potential for disaster if he dropped the film.
I was sure the story would come out one way or another, and that if it did, the BBC would be accused of cover-up. In fact, I wrote an email to Peter saying the story is strong enough, and the danger of not running it is substantial damage to BBC reputation.
As predicted, news emerged that the Savile story had been spiked. In January, cover-up was suggested. In February, that it had been pulled to protect the corporation's image. The BBC publicly denied it. Peter Rippon said it was absolutely untrue that the Newsnight investigation was dropped for anything other than editorial reasons.
These will be forensic, but also soul-searching examinations. Our audience's trust in us is paramount. We will do everything in our power to maintain that trust.
This is the worst crisis that I can remember in my nearly 50 years at the BBC. I don't think the BBC has handled it terribly well. All we have as an organisation is the trust of people, the people that watch us and listen to us. And if we don't have that, if we start to lose that, that's very dangerous for the BBC.